where we were at, we really had two options. We could just kind of continue building a small portfolio, buying some small stuff, just bringing on a partner or two, maybe doing a lot of it with our own money, and just build up a nice small portfolio. And people can do that and retire on that and retire early. But I really had a vision, and you kind of caught that vision of really building a business and bringing on a lot more investors. And we even, I brought on a business partner in really building a business that goes after a really big portfolio, going after a much bigger pie, and we'll get a smaller slice of that pie, but it's a much bigger pie. But it requires building a business, and doing the podcast was a part of that.
Welcome to the Threefold Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is the podcast where you'll not only learn how you can achieve massive success in multifamily real estate investing, but also how you can simultaneously pursue great relationships with your family and a better walk with God. You can achieve financial freedom through real estate investing without sacrificing the relationships that mean the most to you. Now, here's your host, Lee Yoder.
Welcome back, Threefold listeners. I hope you're having a great week. For those of you joining us for the first time, this is the Threefold Real Estate Investing Podcast, where we talk about real estate, but we also focus on our faith and our families, because for us, that's why we're in this real estate game. And this is a very exciting episode because this is our 100th episode here at the Threefold Real Estate Investing Podcast. So I decided to have the most beautiful guest that I've had on during these 100 episodes back on the show. That would be my wife, Hannah. Hannah, thank you for coming on the show today.
Hello, you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. It's very exciting. It's flown by. It's really, everybody says this, but it really is hard to believe that, we've done 100 episodes, and I say we because Hannah has become more and more part of the podcast and helping kind of in the background. I'm just the one that talks all the time, but as Hannah and I were just talking about this and realizing that, we were coming up on 100 episodes and we'd be recording our 100th episode today, we started thinking about just where were we on episode 1 and what a journey it's been. And of course, the podcast has been such a blessing to us, and we've had so many great guests. I mean, what a different place we were in 2 years ago, right? May of 2020 versus May of 2022. And just thinking back through some of the guests and how much we've learned from them through our journey, what a blessing that's been for us. I mean, I think back to the very first guest we had on, a guy I'm still in touch with today, still reach out to and get guidance from. His name is Greg Dickerson, and he's a real estate coach. He knows more about he's forgotten more about real estate than I know. And what's funny about that, as kind of makes sense, for the first episode, I forgot to hit the record button. Yes, so had to reach out to Greg the later that day and say, Greg, I'm so sorry. I didn't even record that hour-long episode.
Can we do that again?
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't even want to ask him that, but he was so gracious. That's fine. We'll do it again. You were kind of asking, some of the memorable guests, and there's so many, just way too many to mention. But I think, very early on, I think it was the second episode, I interviewed my local mentor and the guy that really had so much to do with me getting started in multifamily. And that's Mark Hutton. That was episode 2. He meant so much to me, and he's just a local guy, not known nationally, doesn't do the marketing stuff, but has meant so much to me. And then all the way up to just recently, gosh, it was probably episode 95, somewhere around there, right. that I got to interview Rod Khleif, who is known nationally, and he has a huge coaching program. So many people know him, and he's been a mentor to me because I've been listening to his podcast for a long time. So interviewed a lot of just local people, small guys and girls like me, just getting started and doing it on a small scale, and then interviewed, been fortunate enough to interview some people that have huge platforms and are doing big things and are 10 and 20 steps beyond me. So those are some of the memorable ones to me. I know you've been involved and listened to most of the episodes. What are some of the memorable episodes for you over these 100?
We've had some incredible guests. I've for sure learned so much from many of them because I started off at ground zero and with everything with real estate. So, but I think my favorites One being Dave Foster.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Dave's a great guy.
Yeah, he was episode 71. And he did like a deep dive into the 1031 exchange, and that was really interesting. And then he's just the ultimate Enneagram 7 who, has this dream and goes for it. And I'm not like that. So there's something about that just intrigues me, and a little of, I want to be more like that.
Well, and you're married to an Enneagram 7, so
Right.
it's good for you.
So a better understanding of
Yeah.
that type. And then I love Julie Holly. She's become a friend of
Yeah.
ours.
Yeah.
And she's just real, just
Mhm.
authentic, and just talks real about kind of the grind of real estate, and and how it's not always awesome.
Yeah,
I just
sure.
really,
It's
I
a
really
struggle.
appreciate that about Julie. Her latest episode, I think, was 75,
Yeah. Because she's been on multiple times.
a couple times, and
Okay.
same with Dave too.
Yeah, that's true. 75. And then since you're sitting here, I should probably say one of my other favorites was 79 when you were on with me. And we covered our story. We do want to talk about our journey again, and really kind of highlighting the past 2 years. That's what Hannah's on here for, and what we've done, and what that's meant for us. And, not only in the real estate space, which, I'll kind of cover, the numbers and the transactions we've done, and what we've actually done in the business at Threefold Real Estate Investing. But then Hannah kind of covering more what that's meant to our family, how that's been a struggle for us, how it's been rewarding, challenging, how God has refined us through this so much. So we're going to cover that. And that was in episode 79. We really covered a lot of our early journey.
And as the book right behind us.
That's right. We did
just
talk about
comparing the Rich Dad, Poor Dad kind of perspectives and ways of thinking, and and how to be married to the opposite of that.
What a journey it's been over these 100 episodes, and we've learned so much. But I kind of wanted to take us back all the way to, again, we started this podcast in May of 2020. So obviously right into COVID. So what a 2 years it's been for everybody. But we always like to say all through 2020, we're like, man, this is a crazy year for everybody, and a transformational year for everybody. But man, was it for us, because at the beginning of 2020, you were still working as an RN. I was a full-time physical therapist.
Right.
But we had a real estate portfolio. At the time, we had done a couple flips. We were finishing our second flip of a single family home. We had flipped a duplex. And then we had bought 3 small multifamily properties. We had bought a 16 unit, and then we bought an 8 unit, and we bought a 10 unit. We bought all those at the end of 2019. So we had a 34 unit portfolio of 3 properties. We had done 3 flips, 2 single families and a duplex. So we had a nice portfolio. We both had jobs. With COVID, you were not called in anymore.
Right.
And we were on our way, not because of COVID, but we were on our way to homeschooling the next year. So you ended up stepping away from your job. I was really wanting to follow you in that. And I wanted to step away from my job, even, more than you did, because I was just so passionate about getting into real estate, but it just wasn't the right time for us. So we decided at the time, and really pushed along by me, but I really wanted to double down on real estate. I wanted to do more multifamily. I really believed in that, as we were just getting into it. Obviously, having done a few flips, experienced multifamily a little bit with a duplex, but then having this portfolio of 34 units, really seeing the power of multifamily investing. I wanted to do a lot more of that. I wanted to do it bigger. So I wanted to get into what we call apartment syndication, which means we go after even bigger apartment buildings. We have to bring in a lot more investors. And those are going to be passive investors who just partner with us with their money. And then we run the deal. And it's really more of a business than just buying small apartment buildings like we had done with just 1 or 2 family members. So we were wanting to build a business. I was looking to other people that were doing that to learn how they did it and to follow in their footsteps. One guy that I really looked up to and happened to be local was Joe Fairless. If you don't know Joe Fairless, look up Best Ever Real Estate Investing. That's Joe's brand, is Best Ever. He has a conference. He has a podcast. He has some great books out, got a ton of great content. And I got his book, started going through that. And one thing Joe is really big on is starting a podcast. If you're going to get into real estate syndication, you've got to bring in a lot of investors. So starting a podcast is a way to get your name out there, a way to educate people, get people interested in real estate investing. So that is a little bit of the backstory for us, why we were doubling down on real estate, and then why we started a podcast in May of 2020. How were you feeling at the time? Those were some things I was really pushing toward in my career and what I was doing. But how were we doing as a family at that time? And what were some of your feelings back in May of 2020 when we were just starting the podcast?
Yeah, well, we were definitely just finishing that second flip, and that was crazy because it was COVID and we didn't know if Home Depot was gonna close down, or if our
Yeah.
contractors were gonna, jet out, because they're in quarantine. Or so I feel like we really buckled down as a family and we're there every day finishing this up.
Right.
And I was still kind of looking at it like, oh, this is a cute hobby that he does,
Side hustle.
and when he does things, he does them big. So this is just a big hobby. So I still felt safe in it. But then I think when you were really starting the podcast and kind of going through this textbook of a book and kind of checking, the boxes, is when it kind of became a little more real that, okay, he really wants to quit his job. This is becoming more than a hobby.
Yes, this is serious.
Yes. And then I think you starting the podcast too, it was a way for you like to talk about real estate a lot.
Yeah, I
And
love it.
I can't offer that as much, especially at that time.
Mhm.
And so I think you were just looking for outlets. And so you were just like, this is a way I can bring on people for free and
Right.
pick their brains and just talk real estate. So
Yeah, and that's
and,
exactly what it's been.
educate people too. You're
Yes.
so good at that. And so I feel like it was a way for you to educate people in just an easier way.
It would probably be helpful, I think, for the people that maybe are new to us and haven't heard our story, maybe to just kind of bring up to speed. How did we get to 34 units?
Okay.
How did, we started a podcast, but that was, I want to make sure people understand that was not the beginning of our journey. If you're wanting to follow in our footsteps, it's not as easy as just, and it wasn't as easy for us as just, let's start a podcast and let's start buying apartment buildings. We started the podcast in May of 2020. We bought our first real estate investment, and it was a flip of a single family home in August of 2017. So it was, 3 years in the making to starting a podcast. Let's jump back real quick and we'll just run through our story a little bit for people that haven't heard it. Back to 2017. I guess even should take it back even to the fall of 2016 is when I left my corporate job. We decided that that's not the route we wanted to go with our family. We didn't feel God calling us to that path. And I was getting excited about real estate already. So I left a corporate job, took about a 30% pay cut, went back to doing home health physical therapy, which is what I'd done in the past, which is a job that was not fulfilling and exciting for me. So it's not something I wanted to do long-term, but it's a job that offered a ton of flexibility and plenty of stability to allow me to do real estate as a side hustle. So that started in the end of 2016. It was almost a year later in August of 2017 that we did our first real estate deal. It was a single family flip. For me, that deal was just about getting started. I mean, I left in 2016, wanting to do real estate on the side, read all the books, listened to all the podcasts, was just dying to get started. So I really kind of forced us into that one. We bought that at an online auction. So I really kind of forced our way into that. I think I had told you my max offer was, maybe 70,000 and I bought it for 80. So jumped just a little bit over that. And told you about it after we bought that, and you were less than excited, but all right, here we go. So that was a little bit of my, I guess, thought process behind jumping in. What was your mindset at the time?
This is a low point for me in our story. That's the thing. It hasn't always been awesome. So yeah, I feel like you kind of came to me wanting to start into this real estate stuff. I'm like, no, that's all right. I'm trying to keep two people alive. We don't need to jump into that. And we have two great jobs. You have your doctorate in physical therapy. Why would we get involved in something where we just don't have the time or the capacity for? And you swore that this was gonna free up time and be such a blessing to us financially, time wise, provide for our family and our family culture that we wanted. And yeah, that it was a little different than that.
A little bit different. And so the lesson learned from that is what you're alluding to, is that flipping is not investing. Because I was selling Hannah on this dream of investing in real estate and passive income and time freedom, and flipping is not that. And there's nothing wrong with flipping. And we ended up flipping another house, and I think we'll flip in the future because we actually we really do enjoy it. It's something we feel like we could involve our kids in as they get older, but it's not investing. It's still trading time for money. So that was a real lesson in that. Again, what was nice for me is I'm listening to podcasts, reading books, and there's people out there telling me that, hey, flipping's not investing. And I just kind of had to learn it the hard way. So we did that one. So that was probably my biggest takeaway for sure was that this is not investing. This is not the dream that I sold you of passive income. What would you
Right.
say your biggest takeaway from that first one was?
I think it was definitely the first time that we really experienced like, okay, we're a team, like we are in this together. And
Yeah.
that's probably one of my favorite memories is when we had just a weekend, you and I out there, we like had a date, like
Right.
pizza, bottle of wine. I mean, you would do it right. And we would paint all night long to try to finish this flip. And I did feel like God was kind of telling me the entire time, like as much as this is not fun and I'm not enjoying much of this, just because of the life season that we were in, I still wanted to cheer him on. I wanted to be his biggest cheerleader, even though I felt totally against it. And I felt like God was calling me to that. But all of that being said, I still was one and done. I did not want to do another one after that experience.
Yeah.
Even with some of the highlights.
Yeah. And so we did well on that one. Made money and made more than I actually had expected, made way more than you expected because you expected it to be a
I thought we were
loss.
going to lose everything.
Yeah. So
The
we did well
house,
financially,
our
but
house.
it was not, as far as the time freedom and being able to control it, it wasn't, because at the end of a flip, you get to a point where you need to get it done. You need to get it on the market. So we took a little bit of time off after that.
3 months.
We sold
I
that
asked
in
for
May
a
and-
year. And I
Yeah,
got
you knew that
3
was,
months.
you knew that you were asking for too much there. That was too big of an ask, but we did take the summer off from real estate. And so that next August, we got a duplex, also auction. This was at the county auction. I think it can be a great way to buy properties. It's risky because you don't get to go and tour the property. Now, technically you don't get to. I did go tour the property and I've been known to climb in a window or two, as most of real estate investors do. But it's a little bit risky, but you do get a deal often because a lot of people don't want to buy things sight unseen, and you have to pay all cash. So that was the same way with the first flip with the single family. We did use our home equity line of credit. We also had some family lend us money and kind of partner with us in that one. With the duplex, we did not. We just did not have anybody partner with us. We used our home equity line of credit. So I just say that because a lot of people today probably have a lot of equity in their home. So you take out a home equity line of credit, you can use that and kind of lend yourself money. That's how we got into that one. And I guess mindset there was, let's get into multifamily, because that was always my goal. Even with the flip, it was like, well, this isn't the end goal. We don't want to be flippers. I've always known we wanted to buy apartment buildings. We bought it cheap. And I thought there was a good opportunity to flip this at some point, but also we knew we were going to rent it. We wanted to experience having renters and experience the beauty of passive income and it's not passive when you're an active investor, but it's certainly much more passive than flipping when you have a multifamily property like a duplex and it's rented. And yes, you have to manage those residents, but if the property is in pretty good shape, that's going to be very light. And it was for us. And you make money each month. So that was the mindset getting to that. We bought that one for $90,000. That's an unheard of price today. Obviously, this was again, 2018, now August of 2018 that we bought the duplex. But yeah, was really wanting to push into multifamily and experience having renters and passive income was the mindset behind getting into the duplex. What was your mindset at the time?
I think at this point, it was easier for me to trust the pattern than like the hope that it was going to be better. And at this point, the pattern was, okay, this is just a time sucker. It's stressful. That was hard to convince me of. And then I feel like we can't even go without mentioning like the squatters and the police and the fleas that were everywhere at all times. I mean, I think my number one lesson I learned from this is that it takes 5 treatments to clear out and in like 2 units of fleas from a vacant building. Like 5 treatments. That's how bad the fleas were.
Yeah. When we bought the property, it was lost to the county, right? Tax issue or whatever. They were still there, still squatting. So the local law enforcement were out there on day one to help us. One of the kids decided to overdose that day. So I had to call the ambulance to come get him. So took him off by squad to the hospital. And then I took the other 2 with my truck and all their belongings to somebody else, to one of their parents' homes. So it wasn't a great day one. Day one was not what we expected or hoped for.
It got better though.
It did. We had learned a lot from the first one. Again, that, and what I'll say about that first flip is what so many people say about their first deal. I would never do that deal again. We put $80,000 into that first one. So we bought it for 70, put 80 into it. We were into it for 150. Well, with this one, we're coming into it with a little bit more cushion, a little bit more experience. We found some good contractors.
Yeah.
I was selling some cabinets out of it. A couple pulls up in a green minivan with all the seats taken out and like really beat up. And I'm like, oh, these guys are definitely contractors. They look like painters. And they got out and they wanted to buy these cabinets, and they did. But they said, yeah, what are you doing here? And so they ended up being not only like contractors that did a lot of work for us over the years, but really became some friends and some people that we really cared about.
Yeah.
That was great. That was transformational to have contractors that we could count on, that were reasonable in price, did good work, showed up. That was huge, which we didn't have on the first one. I mean, we did hire a lot of the work, but we did a ton of it ourselves. Having these contractors do a lot more of the work freed up more of our time.
Oh, yeah.
So that it was definitely a very different experience. Also, again, just having a little bit of a cushion from the money we made on the first one, I feel like gave less pressure to this one. But we still did kind of flip it. But again, then we did rent it out. We did get renters in. That was a new experience of kind of stress of having renters that we are responsible for. But we did get to experience what it's like when you have renters in your multifamily property, and the rent that they pay on a monthly basis is more than all your expenses, including your mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And so every month there's profit. This is how you build passive income. This is how you build a portfolio. This is how you build generational wealth. This is the path that gets me to be able to quit my job. All those things. We get to see a little bit of that in this first one.
Right.
And so we end up selling that in under a year as well. So again, more like a flip. And then for some reason we kept doing deals every August. So bought the single family flip in August of 2017, bought the duplex in August of 2018. And then I started getting more and more into multifamily, joined the local RIA, was getting educated. That's important. You have to get educated on underwriting and how to operate a multifamily property. You can do a duplex pretty easily, a quad, but I wanted to go bigger. So in August of 2019, we bought a 16 unit multifamily property, kind of more of a true apartment building, a very small apartment building, but an apartment building nonetheless. And so that was a huge step. I guess my mindset behind that was, again, that was always the goal. I didn't know we would get to it on our third deal, but the goal was to buy apartment buildings. I wanted to do more of that. And I guess I would say on that duplex, maybe we were clearing somewhere between $300 and $400 a month. So great profit on a duplex. That's $150 to $200 per unit. But looking at what our goal was, and we had a pretty small goal initially, was just, hey, what if we could profit $5,000 a month, give us $60,000, that could maybe pay for like our basic expenses, not the life we want, but pay for our basic expenses. And maybe if we get to that number, I could quit my job and do this full time and continue building it. Well, with the duplex, it's spitting out $300 to $400 a month. I mean, your 12, 14, 16 duplex is what we would have needed for that. And looking at it's like, we don't want to buy 16 duplexes. So what if we can buy, in this example, 8 duplexes at once in a 16 unit, and likely the profit per unit's not going to be as much, but the profit is going to be a lot more than just one duplex. So that was my mindset behind pushing to bigger multifamily properties. What was your mindset at the time?
I think I was more in the realm of, I just got good at a duplex.
Yeah, got comfortable with that.
Yeah, and now you want to buy an old schoolhouse
right
in the middle
old
of a
school building.
cornfield, and that has no management. It's a mom and pop kind of
Rough.
thing, which
Leaking
apparently
roof.
is what you want to buy in this world.
That's
And
what I
so
wanna
I
buy.
had to learn all of this. But I've said all along, the thing that always comes to mind is trust equals time plus believable behavior. And you were starting to build that at this point. So I feel like I was beginning to trust you a little bit more, kind of trusting God through it, but then trusting that you were leaning on him to
Mhm.
guide you. And I think you were starting to prove that to me through all these different buildings.
Yeah, and they were working out. We had a good track record so far. Learning. We brought on a mentor. I think that gave you, and it was just a local guy. We didn't pay him, but he was leading the apartment focus group for the local RIA. And he ended up, I gave him a piece of that 16 unit. So, he kind of partnered with us on it and came alongside us and really held my hand through it and helped so much. And so that gave you some more confidence. But you're right. I mean, people will ask, how do you get your wife on board when she's just not into real estate investing? And that was totally you. So I can
Yeah.
speak to that. And what you just said there is a big part of it. It's just, it's going to take time. I mean, you're not going to just jump in and believe in real estate investing. I would say, not that you didn't trust me as a person, but you had no reason to trust me as a real estate investor, because I wasn't a real estate investor until I started investing in real estate.
Right.
So we decided to break trend, and instead of just buying one property every August, which we had done for 3 years, we bought the 16 unit in August, and then late October, maybe we bought an 8 unit. And then I think late November, we bought a 10 unit. So jumped right into multifamily, boom, 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 got 3 of them. The funny story behind that was you talk about, hey, I just got comfortable, and then you got to throw me into this. You had just got comfortable with the 16 unit, because it took 2.5 months to close that. So you finally got comfortable with that, finally got on board. We're buying a 16 unit. Okay, this seems crazy. But the day we were closing is when I got a call from a buddy of mine who wanted to invest with us, and he found an 8 unit and he showed it to me. And I said, this is an incredible deal. Again, by this time I'm in so much underwriting, so much education. That's what you got to get to. And you can recognize a good deal very quickly. And so I said to you, I know we're closing today on this 16 unit. Do you mind if we put an 8 unit under contract today as well?
Sure.
So I think that was another one of those. I was
problem.
just getting comfortable with the 16 unit, and we got to get to an 8 unit. I will say that 8 units probably the best deal we've ever done. And I don't know that we'll ever do another deal better than that. It was an incredible deal. So thankfully the Lord moved you to trust me yet again a little bit. And then God bless that deal. I mean, this is not about what Hannah and I have done. This is, our testimony of what God has done through us and what he's blessed us with. And that was certainly an example of that. So we bought those 3 multifamilies. We had 34 units. Again, this kind of brings us up to where we were when we started the podcast. So that's kind of our story. But getting those multifamilies, where were we at then? What was kind of your mindset, or what were some takeaways for you in buying the small multifamilies?
I think for me, learning so much about failure. For me, I am risk adverse. I don't do it if I feel like I'm going to fail. And that's just in my wiring and my nature. But you've through this, and I feel like God has revealed it to me too, of just how, and you describe it perfectly with your sports analogy, where failure for me, it's the end of the game. They're like, we just lost.
Yeah.
Where for him, it's like, no, I just threw an interception. Like, it's totally fine. We just get back out there and keep playing. And so I learned a lot about how much of an idol that had become for me, of just trying to stay away from any chance that we could fail, or I could fail. Robert Kiyosaki, he says, failure inspires winners, but failure defeats losers. And as harsh as that is, I just realized, okay, that was kind of a slap in the face. I'm the loser here. Like, because if I'm going to fail, like I leave it.
The way you put that is perfect for real estate investing, but even just for entrepreneurship in general. I mean, this is our real estate journey, but it's really an entrepreneurship journey. I mean, real estate was just our vehicle. We've had so many examples that we own a property and things are going really bad. Maybe we will lose. But yeah, I think my point was, and this is true in real estate investing, we still own the property. We haven't lost until we don't own the property anymore. So things may not be going well right now. Maybe we're over budget. Maybe we can't get it rented. Maybe we just found out the basement's leaking, and so we're going to have to spend $10,000 that we didn't count on. But we don't know what we're going to sell the property for yet. Or maybe we end up renting it. You haven't lost until you've given up, until you quit, right? And that's kind of what Robert Kiyosaki is saying, is like, losers will quit. And so you have lost because you just quit.
Right.
But winners, will keep pushing forward. And we have learned that example, because with almost every one of our properties, we've gotten to a point where it looked like, okay, we're going to lose on this one.
We've had major speed bumps. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, like I said, that first one, we spent $80,000 in that property. The basement was leaking and continued leaking.
How many hours of work?
Yeah, I kind of kept track. It was over 500 for me. Right. That didn't include you and our 2-year-old and our 4-year-old coming out. So many things were wrong. In the duplex, day one, having somebody overdose on the property, and just multiple times it didn't seem like that was going to work. The 16 unit, we got in the roof's leaking. We had a horrible roof issue. Even at the end when we're selling, and it looked like we're not going to sell it, but we did. And again, because we didn't give up, we decided to keep moving forward. And again, so that brings us all the way up to 2020. We actually took a whole year just turning around those properties. We were very heavily involved in those. Those were just joint ventures we did with 1 or 2 family close friends. And I kind of acted as the GC on all those projects. beginning of 2021, when you and I sat down and we prayed, and I think we fasted at the beginning of that year, and we're like, what's our next step? What do we want to just keep doing more of this? What is God calling us to?
Well, it started with us talking about our why, or more or less like where we wanted to be,
What do we
5
want to get
years.
out of
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
And in that we completely agreed. I mean, all along we had agreed on that, where like
Right.
what we wanted for our family, what we wanted life to look like, and what we felt like God was pulling us towards, and desiring from us. And so I think in discussing that in January, it became clear that we want the exact same things. We're just on a different journey to get there. We were kind of going a different route. And I think for me, it took, I had that whole picture analogy of you on the boat, I'm on shore, pulling the rope still, holding you back, where you're on the boat and you're heading into the sunset, where that's our goals. Like they're my goals too. It's just, you were just taking a different route to get there. And if I just got on the boat, then we could get there. And so I feel like that was my time where, okay, I'm all in, like I'm in on this, and quitting your job and building a business and starting a podcast. And I think, but it took that kind of revelation of just us discussing, okay, we're really not that far from each other in this. We just have to get on the same page of how we get there. And your route for getting there was much quicker than my route of just going the poor dad way and doing the W-2s. It was more risky, and I had to overcome. I still have to overcome that. I mean, that's just in me, but it was definitely a really good moment for us in our marriage, in the business, of when we just, okay, I'm on board.
Our goal was kind of the time freedom, to be able to work together. You kind of said that at the beginning. We didn't really develop that very well, but it was so fun that we could do this together, that I was working from home and we take our kids to the properties all the time and put them to work. And that was fun. I mean, and that's not for everybody, but that's what we wanted. And so, by this time it was like, wow, real estate is really offering us all those things. Yeah. The boat was going in that direction, that real estate boat that I was on. It was allowing us to work together. It also was allowing us a lot of freedom. I mean, we worked when it worked for us.
Right.
I could work early in the morning. I could work late at night. That was awesome. It was a good feeling. And we've basically just pushed forward with that. We ended up selling all 3 of those properties, all 34 of those units in that portfolio. We sold 2 of them at the end of 2020. And that's when I quit and went full-time into real estate investing, quit as a physical therapist. And now neither of us have a job. And so we really are all in.
Not scary at all.
Yeah, really are all in on the real estate stuff. And then beginning of 2021, we sold the other one. And then one part of our journey was adding a business partner. So again, we were interested in building a business, and we knew we couldn't do that on our own. I knew I couldn't do that on my own. And so we actually added a business partner. That goes back to that corporate job I had. A good buddy of mine that was a partner of mine in that business. As we were climbing the corporate ladder, we were building a division together. That's my business partner, Kevin Waymeyer. He joined Threefold, was really a huge help to me, huge help to the business. Not only like taking on some of the work, but somebody to lean on, somebody to talk to every day, somebody to celebrate with, but somebody to mourn with and cry and moan with when things aren't going well, and get mad with. And so he's been a huge help. But that's a part of building a business. I mean, you can't do it all on your own. And when we decided, hey, we're not just going to build a small portfolio, we're going to build a business and buy big apartment buildings, we knew that meant adding people. In 2021, we bought a 45 unit. In February of 2021, we bought a 47 unit in June of 2021, and we bought a 96 unit at the end of that year. So 188 units last year, apartment syndicating. So, another big jump. Again, God has just blessed us in this journey. And what I would say too, just as regards to the podcast, is it's been so helpful to talk to guys and girls that have already done this, guys and girls that have quit their job with real estate, those that have made the jump from smaller multifamily to big multifamily. I mean, I've got to talk to so many people, and then, you're always listening to the podcast. So you're gathering information and kind of gaining confidence. I guess I think all the way back to getting ready, and I was pursuing the 16 unit. And, you said to me, like, Lee, people
don't do this.
Yeah, right. People don't buy apartment buildings. And
who does this?
And I said, well, nobody we know does this, but actually people do this. Like, at least on the podcast I'm listening to and the books I'm reading, they're saying that they're doing this. And then again, joining the local RIA and the apartment focus group. And then, by 2020, we were doing this. So,
Right.
Kind of gaining confidence, and the podcast has just been so helpful to see others and talk to others. It's been a great journey. And today, I guess just kind of where we're at today,
Yeah.
We are working on a project now. Within the next week, we'll be at 283 units. Just seems crazy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we just want to highlight that, it was in 2017. So not even 5 years ago that we were buying a single family to flip. This time in 2019, we owned nothing. We had sold the duplex. So
Right.
in just 3 years, from 0 to 283 units, and we've just done nothing special. We've had good mentors. We've had good, mentors through the podcast. Still not financially independent because when you syndicate apartments, most of the cash flow goes to the investors. We take an acquisition fee that pays us and pays us a good salary, but we have to continue working. We're really enjoying it. We're doing it more together now than we ever have. You're more in the business. As our kids have gotten older, they're more in the business. So I think that's why we do the podcast, that others could follow. What we like to put out there is that we've done nothing special, but here's what we have done, and you could do it as well.
And I mean, we're, like you said, we're still building. It's not, what we want it to be in the end.
Sure.
But we do feel like God still has us on this journey for a reason. And I've told you from the beginning, there's got to be a mission side to this in order for this to feel totally right for me.
Yeah.
And God has blessed us with, hundreds of residents, many, many investors, just people who are just right in front of us within our reach just to serve. So we're really blessed in that. I think one of the probably struggles we've had as we've grown so fast is just remembering to celebrate the small wins. I think it's so easy to get super excited about the large leaps because they really are like really big wins.
It's exciting.
That you kind of lose focus of just the beauty of the simple and the small things. And so I feel like we've had to, especially in the last few months, as a reminder, just to be humble and just be so grateful for just even the small ways that God has provided. I feel like that's something big we've learned as we've grown through it fast. I feel like that's something God has taught us.
Yeah. And you're much better about recognizing that. I mean, you mentioned a 7 on the Enneagram. I mean, I'm into the big, exciting, big wins and often live in the future and what's next and instead of, what we've done. Yeah, it's been a wild journey. I like to share it, and share how God has blessed us and maybe how God will choose to bless others if they want to go this route with us. But and the podcast has been a big part of it. The guests that we've had on have been so helpful
Phenomenal.
to us in leading us and guiding us, helping us avoid some mistakes that they've made.
And the amount of networking that you have done through the podcast of people who, even after, the conversation, who have mentioned this person or contact this person.
Yep.
And it's just been such an easy way for you to meet people and get the connections that you need to further, the business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, good stuff. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Different episode a little bit. Hey, maybe I'll have you back on episode 200.
Maybe.
We'll see.
We shall
see how it goes. We'll see if we have
I prefer
good
to be
news.
behind the scenes.
Yeah. If things are still going well, maybe I'll have you back. If maybe we're burned out, maybe we're not doing it. Maybe it's all burned and we're heading in a different direction. Hopefully
Whole
not.
different,
We'll see.
this guy.
Yeah,
Leave it
we'll
at
see. Yeah, if you want to learn more about us, if you want to join us, feel free to reach out to us. We send people to our website. That's threefoldrei.com. You can email us at info@threefoldrei.com. We love talking to people about real estate. I think you can probably tell just on this episode that we're very passionate about real estate investing and what it's done for us and what we think it can do for you. And you don't have to invest actively. You can invest passively. You can just invest your money and let other sponsors who are doing it actively or doing it full time, let them invest your money for you in a deal. And it's a great way to put your money to work for you. So yeah, reach out to us. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope to hear from you. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode. I hope you'll take action on what you've learned today. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider leaving Lee a 5-star rating and review. And check him out on threefoldrei.com. Until next time, 1 Timothy 6:17.